1. Happy Monday, everybody. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin for you. And Mike, we went way over an hour last week, so we're going to try and cut it down this week. I know there's some great questions, so let's hop right into it. And our first one is from Marty Bird's Proxy, who wants to know, and this is a great question, Mike, when NIL first came into play, seems like businesses were paying athletes for their services or advertising, and schools were supposed to share in sales of merchandise using their name or likeness. Now schools are raising money specifically for NIL. Are they paying athletes directly now? Have the rules been changed, or has NIL just taken on a life of its own?
Yeah, the rule didn't change. There's one basic NIL rule that they're violating all the time, and it hasn't changed, and that is you're not supposed to offer somebody an NIL deal while you're recruiting them. And that would be either in the portal or somebody in high school. But here's what happened. Some very clever people just used some what I thought was dopey logic, but people are falling for it. State of Tennessee, for instance, I guess Tennessee went to their congressmen or state legislatures and said, hey, let's pass a law saying it's okay to offer NILs to high school guys in the state.
Yeah.
And it got passed, and then other states did it. I think Missouri has one. I think Arkansas may be in the process of getting one of those. This is not the point, and I don't know how many times I have to say this. It's never been illegal, going all the way back to when the NCAA was first formed, and the member institutions had the rules, because you have to have rules if you have an organization. And they determined, gee, we don't want it to be where colleges can buy championships, just buy players. So we're going to put in rules saying you can't do that. These are amateur athletes, you can't offer them money. That's always been the case. Now, it wasn't that it's illegal to do that. You can offer people money as long as they're not committing a crime in exchange for the money you're offering. As long as you're not asking them to steal something or murder somebody. You can offer somebody money. It's not illegal. But if you've got an organization like the NCAA and they've determined that there are rules and you can't do it, then it's just against their rules. And if you want to get money, get out of that organization and see if somebody else will give you money. That's the way it works. And the best example, I've used this example, I'm going to use another.
Is it the country club example?
No, I'm going to go with another one.
Okay. I'm
Let's say I own a vintage 63 and a half Corvette split windowed coupe. Great car.
Okay.
Vintage car. And I have this, and I want to form a Corvette club in my area. So I advertise, and I go around and talk to people, and I get a bunch of people together, and we form a group, Corvette Club, and we have our own rules, and we put rules in there for what you do and all that. And so we've got a bunch of Corvette owners, people that have vintage Corvettes, and some guy walks up with a 62 Dodge Dart and says, I'm going to be a part of your club. You say, no, this is a Corvette club. It's not illegal to own a Dodge Dart.
No,
it's not against the law. You just can't be in our club because we determine this is a club for people that drive Corvettes. And any organization you form, as long as you're not discriminatory, as long as you're saying you can't be in this because you're a woman, you can't be in this because you're Jewish or because you're black or because you're Arab or anything like that. Those are discriminatory.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't have rules that against stuff like that, you have every right to say, this is college athletics, this is amateur athletics. We don't want people offering money and turning this into professional sports. And they all agreed on this years and years ago. All the member institutions had a chance to look at these rules and said, yeah, that's what we believe in. But now, because some state legislature passes a law that says it's okay to give them NIL money, it is okay. It's just if you take it, you can't be a part of our group.
Yeah.
Because we're saying we don't do that. But nobody will enforce it. The NCAA is scared to death, so they won't do it. And now they're trying to figure out other solutions. But to me, go ahead and test it. Go after these people. The ones that you can actually prove they offered somebody money to go to their school in violation of the NCAA's, the way that you do NIL. You can only offer them an NIL after they've signed, not before. And go punish them and put them on probation or whatever. Then they're going to sue you, and then it'll go to court, and we'll see if you have the right to do that. Because if you don't, then every club, every organization in America can have no rules.
Right. But I bring up what the whole roundabout argument again. The NCAA is scared. They are scared that the government stepped in, that Congress stepped in and made it legal. They're like, well, if we.
But what did they say was legal? What the Supreme Court said?
They said NIL was legal.
They did not.
Athletes to make money off of their name, image, and likeness.
They said if you sell a product or use an athlete in any way that involves his name, image, and likeness, and you make money off of it, you have to give him a part of it. Okay, so now you could make the argument, okay, when you put them on a football field, you're using them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, guess what they get? A $60,000 a year scholarship. That's giving them money. That's giving them something.
Right, but
they're not doing it for free.
Right, you're bringing up some great points, but the whole reason, and to go back to Marty Bird Proxy's original question was, it was originally for athletes so that people just couldn't take advantage of them, right?
Right.
Where people like the video game, like the college football video game,
what started
where they use their images, and people are like, I'm not getting any money from that.
And if what we were doing now is schools had the right to sell jerseys, helmets, any kind of
exactly,
and with the guy's name, image, okay, fine, you give him part of that, and that would be fine. But that's not what's going on.
Well, exactly, because I found out very recently, and this really upset me. I was trying to find a Devo Davis jersey, and you know this, Mike. I was trying to find a Devo Davis jersey as a Christmas present, and I can't find a Devo Davis jersey.
Because it doesn't exist.
Because it doesn't exist. And so I'm like, what is the point of name, image, and likeness
because schools aren't doing that.
Exactly.
That's not what they're doing. They're just, and now with these collectives, that's what really happened. The collective spot. Originally, it was you get an agent, he will go out and look for you deals. Now all of a sudden, we just got a collective.
But that you're just giving them money. You're not asking them for anything, we can sell your jersey now or do this. You're just saying, here's the money from the collective. Thanks for coming to our school.
And so what is the solution to this? Because we're talking about the NCAA being scared. What they're also scared of, and Charlie Baker came up with this thing we talked about last week. He's the president of the NCAA. What they're scared of now is they're being sued by Title IX groups representing women in athletics on Title IX. Hey, you're giving all these men these NILs. It's not being done equally. And he's right. If you're going to do this, what you would have to do is spread it out and let the women's, and I've said this. I said this a year ago. The real way to do this is to make these students part-time, or make these athletes part-time employees of the university and pay them all the same. But what he's saying is give them all $30,000 or $40,000 or whatever. Now here's where it's all going to come unraveled, because this is what I'm telling you. Every time people get greedy, I'm 75 years old. I've seen stuff like this happen my whole life. Every time somebody gets greedy and they think they're going to take it, oh, we're going in this direction and you can't stop us. Here's where this is headed. And he said it. If you propose, he's proposing a super conference of maybe 35 to 40 schools that can afford this. They can afford to give 450 student athletes $40,000 each, which is $40 million just to get started. Some of them can afford to do that.
That's a lot.
I don't think Arkansas ever will. So here's what's going to happen. How many schools are in their Division I now? 120, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say they take 35. Who are they leaving out? How many are they leaving out?
Ones without money, I guess.
But how many would that be? 80?
Oh,
70?
gosh, 80, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 80,
now,
70,
here's what you're doing. This reminds me of a bunch of guys at a club playing poker around tables. And everybody's wanting to play, and a bunch of guys go, hey, we got a high-stakes game here. You guys get over there and play your own little peanut game. We're going to play high-stakes poker over here. And they're over there thinking they're better. Well, this is what this is going to be. So you're going to have Tennessee, you're going to have LSU, we're going to have SMU, we're going to have all these schools, LSU, all these schools that have a lot of money, Ohio State, Michigan. They're going to be over there playing their high-stakes poker game. And the networks are going to go, wow, okay, we're just going to have these guys on TV, and boy, is there going to be an audience. What do you think the fans of those other 60 or so schools are going to do? You think they're just going to go, okay, I guess we won't watch our school anymore. We will just watch these guys. They're not going to do that. There'll be a separate division. And guess what's going to happen? The people that are fans of those schools in that separate lower division, the non-high stakes poker game, they're still going to watch their guys. They're not going to watch your guys because they don't care. They care about if Arkansas gets pushed into a lower division, if they're in there with Oklahoma State, Mississippi State, Baylor, Texas Tech, whoever, you're still going to get excited because you're now in that division. And that's what you're going to watch. And I'm telling you, there will be more people watching that than there will be this 32-team super-duper high-stakes poker game.
I don't know about that.
I do.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, I see it every day. I see the frustration. I go on the internet and I talk to people. People hate this. Yes, there are people out there. They've always been there. They think college athletics should be professional. They think athletes have a right to earn $2 million a year. If the coach can make them that much money, he can. They don't care about the college part of it. They just soon get that out of the way and have their teams be semi-pro football. But most fans don't feel that way.
No.
Let me tell you something. You go to a school, your father went to that school, his father went to that school, your son's going to that school. You go to the games because all of you rooted for that school while you were going to school there, and that creates the college tie with the program. And you've got it all over the place here with Razorbacks. You've got Razorback families. I'm not talking about maybe none of them played, but they were here as fans. And they're Razorbacks. And I'm telling you, you push Arkansas out into another division, they're going to watch that.
Yeah, they are, but there's still going to be fans of the Alabamas.
Well,
you know,
yeah.
people are still going to watch
fans.
Alabama. Well, and other people too. I mean, look at the numbers when Alabama, Georgia. We talk about the college football playoffs. The reason why, the huge reason, or I believe a huge reason why Alabama was put in the college football playoffs is because they pull numbers. The SEC pulls
It's not
numbers.
going to be as lucrative as these people think it is.
Okay.
Keep in mind, they're going to have to come up with $40 million right off the bat just to pay all their athletes.
Very true.
So they're going to they're going to have a lot of money, but they're going to have to spend a lot of it. And I'm telling you, it's going to unravel.
Okay.
Everybody's going to wake up one day and go, hey, you know what we were doing back 20 years ago? That's kind of a cool thing. Let's do that again. And when enough people want it, it will go back. It won't matter what NIL says or what the Supreme Court, they will figure out a way to make it go back. I'm hoping somebody with some brains will stop this before it gets to that point.
You need government intervention, though. I feel like you need the government. They stepped in once. They can do it again and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. When we did this the first time, when we put this in order, in action, we did not think that it was going to unravel to this point. We are now stepping in again to put some rules and some regulations on it, right? That you need that government intervention once again.
I'm not totally opposed to NIL. I'm
not
opposed
either.
to you just buy players because you got more money than the other guys.
Yeah. I mean,
You're high stakes poker game. We got more money over here, so you're out. Get out. Go away.
I haven't seen a lot of people, and maybe some people in the comments here can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot of people who just I know you say they're out there, but I know a lot of people that are for NIL, but not for paying for players.
I'm just telling you, I read it all the time. Mike, you're behind the times. Players have a right to make $2 million if somebody...
Well, then I'm behind the times too, because I'm for players making money off of their name, image, and likeness, but not just going... it's bidding wars, right? It's bidding wars.
In full swing right now with the transfer portal.
Yeah, and we have more questions about this, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And this one is from Pig's Feet, who asked, do you think the universities have been guilty of using specific NIL monetary offers to recruits will ever face penalties from the NCAA?
No, I don't think the NCAA will do it. They're chicken. They caused this
just
problem.
Said that.
They caused this problem, and now they're going, we can't do anything.
Well, we're scared of getting
Get rid of them. Tell Charlie Baker, bye. We don't like your solution. We're forming a new NCAA. We'll call it the ACAA, the American Collegiate Athletic Conference. And we're getting rid of you, and we'll make our rules again to what we like, and then we'll get them tested in court, and then we'll start our new organization. But they'll never do that.
No, they won't. But the NCAA, that's why, again, I said just in the end of the last question, government intervention. Why can't the government step in once again?
Do you really like the idea that a Louisiana Tech, that an Arkansas State, that a Missouri State, that a South Alabama can't play with these other teams anymore, can't come play them?
I don't like
Well,
that.
that's where we're headed.
I know.
They're
and I
gone.
I don't
And
like that.
they'll go beyond that. Arkansas won't be able to play those
I know,
teams.
and I don't like it. I agree. I don't like where it's heading because you're right. It's heading down to a place where it's going to be a super conference, right? You're going to have one super conference, and I've said this on the show before. You're going to have one super conference. They get all the deals, TV deals. They get all the stuff. They get all the things, and it's going to take the little guys, like you said. It's going to take those outcasts to step up and go, we're not going to watch them. We're not going to give you money for them. It's going to take that. Will it happen? We'll see. We'll see. That's something I hope we don't get to that point. Parallax Peg wants to know, what are rules for giving NIL money to walk-ons? Mike, I love this question. Seems it would be easy to get around the 85 scholarship limit by getting a recruit to walk on with the promise to give them NIL money to pay for college costs.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's never been asked. Nobody's even thought about it. I hear stuff, NIL questions all the time. I've never heard that one asked. And the answer is going to surprise you. There's nothing to stop you.
I thought it was that. I mean, I thought the answer was that.
Now, we talked about this, and Jacob of our staff came up with, I think, a very good answer to that, which is, yes, you could do that to add more players above the scholarship, but most schools would probably just take the extra NIL money they have and give it to get better players.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't happen, and you could if you just. I don't think it would happen in mass. Here's how it would happen. If you had all of your scholarships filled and all of a sudden a guy becomes available that you think you can flip, and maybe he's a running back and you already got a lot of running backs, but you really want this guy, but you don't have a scholarship left, you could say, hey, come on, we'll give you NIL money. It'll cover the scholarship for a year, and then we'll put you on scholarship. So they could definitely do that. And I think I could see that happening.
It's still an interesting concept,
though,
to think about that. Although Jacob, he brings up a great point about just using that money to just get better guys. It does bring up an interesting idea.
You would have to be one of those schools, A&M, SMU, LSU, the ones that have unlimited NIL money. And I've explained this before. It's not just how much money your boosters have. It's how nuts are they. Really, I'm serious. I mean, I can be a booster. This is what I've talked to boosters of Arkansas. This is what they've told me. Yes, I like the Razorbacks. I also like my money. And I'm not just going to throw money for no reason at them. But you've got A&M boosters and especially SMU boosters and LSU boosters that are just cuckoo. Yeah, here's a bunch of money. I don't care what you do. Get rid of this guy, pay him off, get another guy in, pay him off. I don't care. We'll buy a bunch of players. That's what they do.
We'll just do that. It might, for them, it would definitely benefit because you could even say, you could make the point, would you use that money to buy better players? Or what if you bought under the radar players like D2 players or JUCO guys, right?
You could do that.
You could do that. And then they become like Andrew Armstrong or, I mean,
But you have to have a lot of NIL money available. And this is once again what creates an unfair situation that you don't even have in the NFL because of salary caps and the draft. The draft, we don't have a draft in college football. Therefore, you got to do something to try and equalize to keep Alabama and Georgia from winning all the time because they're going to bring the best players in anyway.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to do all this crazy stuff, are we going to institute a draft? We're talking about going pro almost. So is the answer to that this 32 group of 34 has a draft
and
has a salary cap?
And tank your season so you can get a better draft pick? So
I'm telling you.
That would be a wild situation. We're talking about the wild, wild west here in college football, but it's turning into that for sure. Whitewater wants to know, where does Arkansas's NIL program rank nationwide?
Okay, there is no real answer to that. You could probably go online and find some rankings. There's no way for these people that do it to prove that they're accurate because you don't have to report NIL money and totals
and make it public.
And make it public. So if you see them ranking a bunch of schools, usually it's done by conference, not the whole NCAA. But if you see that, chances are they just guessed.
So, well, they did like valuations of athletes and what they're valued.
That they know about, but they still don't know what was totally available there.
No.
So there's no point in us really talking about that. I mean, you saw one where Arkansas was 8th in the SEC. That was over a year ago. That's before this EDGE program was put into effect. We don't know the effect of EDGE yet. They're just getting started. we know that Sam Pittman was concerned enough about it to say, we got to do something different than what we're doing. That tells me they were behind.
Yeah.
So now you're going to try to catch up.
Well, I definitely don't think they were top like 5 in the SEC
Right.
or one of the top 10 in the NCAA even. But it's interesting to see where they value even athletes here, because if you go on and look at like On3, I think I even joked with you, it's as one of Arkansas's valuation of like Nudie McLaughlin,
They
which
had
was
him as the highest.
the highest, and I was going, guys,
See,
that's
so that stuff is inaccurate.
you know, some of that stuff isn't correct, exactly. So, and athletes don't have to say what they're getting paid or where their deals are coming from. So you're exactly right. Havoc asks, with so many rumors of NIL poaching, tampering with players, what are the odds that some high-profile player or players write a book or big-time interview to expose certain coaches / teams with evidence what really goes on behind all this?
I suppose it could happen, but what is the purpose of a book like that? It's got to be explosive. It's got to be shocking. There's nothing shocking about this. If you wrote a book like that, people go, yeah, they're doing that, because we all know they're doing it. So I don't know that it would be that interesting. I mean, it's just, we all know it's happening. It's not like if you wrote a book 5 years ago about LSU cheating their eyeballs out in basketball, which we know they were now, and their coach eventually got fired. That would be interesting maybe. But this, I'm going to write an expose that schools are buying players with NIL. Yeah, they're doing that. There would be nothing shocking about that.
And also, you would have to have somebody that doesn't mind tanking their reputation within this community, right? Don't you think they would get ostracized?
I don't know. What's there to ostracize? Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, yeah, this is against the rules, but they're not enforcing the rules, so who cares?
Yeah.
I just don't think a book like that would be very shocking.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have something else to it, like you said. Like if
Yeah,
it's
if they murdered somebody or whatever, if you got
so
something
we're
shocking.
talking about Alabama
We're talking about
basketball
robbing
expose
people
over
and
here?
stealing money from them to pay NIL, you know, something crazy. But
I think that if there was something like it was around a program, like if it was something, you know, this program has been doing X, Y, and Z, I would find it kind of interesting.
I wouldn't, because I
Okay.
know they're already doing
All
it.
right. Mike says, I know what they're doing. I don't need a book to expose. Havoc, I'd like to see a book. I think that'd be interesting. Razor Alex 88 says, I was aghast by the poor display of journalism about KJ leaving when no decision was made. KJ had to clarify, no decision was made. Of course, KJ could decide at a later time to leave. The premature assumption was just unprofessional.
Well, I'm not going to get into who reported this or whatever. I just know how the media works. I promise you, whoever their source was for that story, KJ at some point did indicate he was going, and then he probably changed his mind. Well, wait a minute, I'm going to back off here. For whatever reason, there could be 10 different reasons. So anytime you go with a story like that, you got to be careful. Now, I had people telling me he was going. I could have reported that story.
Sure.
But I
Any
didn't
of us
feel like
could.
it was solid enough. I just didn't want to get involved in it, because you got to look at the story itself. It's KJ. So you kind of don't want to get that wrong. So to me, it was just easier, okay, I'm just going to wait. I don't care if somebody else has this first or not. I don't feel like I have enough to go with it. But I'm not going to criticize the people that did do that, because I believe they had very good reasons for saying what they did. Now, as we tape this show, we're still sitting here, and he hasn't done anything, and we can't figure out what he's doing.
So don't come for us if he announces later today, all right, guys?
What's
please.
wrong with you guys? Didn't you know? No, we didn't know when we did this show. But again, I don't look at it the way the question was posed, which it was bad journalism. I just think that it was probably going to happen, and he changed his mind.
The people who reported it have good, they are usually on the forefront of announcing those things, of being the portal trackers. They wouldn't put something out unless they believe that source was really, really good.
And it might have been more than one.
It might have been more than one. So I have a good reason to believe they thought that was true. I have also reason to believe that KJ might have said, I wasn't ready yet, and I didn't really want it to be out there, or whatever it is. Or maybe he's playing a money game. Who knows? I mean,
You don't have any idea.
We don't have any
He's not
idea.
talking to us.
he isn't talking to us. So we're on KJ time right now. Exactly. WV Hog Fan asks, is there any specific reason why we had 3 linebackers enter the transfer portal?
Yeah, one of them, and I'll mention him, Pooh Paul. I think he left the portal because of some very clearly stated reasons by his dad, which was put on the internet, which was he got tired of having teammates that didn't seem to mind that you were losing and getting embarrassed in SEC games in front of your own fans. You should be embarrassed by the way you're playing, and they weren't. And he said, I'm going to go play on a team where people care about it enough not to let this happen. So that was one of them. I think the others were probably encouraged to leave. I think for the most part, with Pittman, what we've seen in the years of the portal, I think we've seen mostly when players exit here, it's because they sort of were told. I don't think they tell them to leave, but I think they say, we're fixing to bring in 2 more linebackers. And unless something really changes with you, you're not playing. Because they have these exit meetings.
Or the players tell them, like in Chris Pooh Paul's case, hey, I am going to go. I am going to leave.
But what I'm saying is I know that they didn't want him to leave. But most of these, I think, and actually initially there was a lot of numbers right there at the beginning. People were going, oh, Arkansas is losing all its players. Now they're actually not among those that are higher up in the SEC and transfer portal. It looks like to me when it's all said and done, there's actually not going to be a whole lot of people that hit the portal.
Yeah.
And I think the ones that went, for the most part, there'll be some exceptions, but for the most part, they were people that were told, we didn't like what you did last year, and you're going to have to really change a lot, or somebody else is going to play in your place.
No, I think it's interesting when you talk about that, because we talk about these 3 linebackers, and I think you're right about Chris Pooh Paul, but in a case like Rocket Sanders, I mean, I don't think they went into that exit interview and went, we want you to hit the portal.
I don't think they told him that, and I don't know what his thought process was, but I'm just telling you, when you have a season like this, and this sounds cruel on my part, but when you have a season like that, my attitude is there's nobody sacred on that team. They all lost those games together. It wasn't like Pooh Paul, was doing 15 things that other guys weren't doing. I mean, he had a good year. But when you look at some of these guys, what did Rocket do? Did he have a 100-yard game?
Yeah, maybe one.
I think he had a hard time having a total of 100 yards.
Yeah.
So he had a bad year. Now, there are reasons for that. Same thing with KJ. KJ has been almost untouchable in this thing. Oh, it wasn't his fault. Offensive line was bad. Really? That was the only thing? He had no role in it? So my attitude is, if I'm Sam Pittman, I don't tell KJ you need to hit the bricks. I don't tell Rocket you need to hit the bricks. But what I tell him in the exit interview is, you played a role in this too. You were a part of why we didn't win, and I expect more out of you next year. And then they might look at that and go, I'm going.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily cruel, but I also think, when you have a player that's hurt for most of the year, you can't also just put that entirely on that player to say, oh, you were hurt, you were a part of this as well, that the fact that you got hurt in the very first game of the season.
I mean, there's a dozen reasons why he could have left. I'm not him.
True. No, yeah.
And he may have just said, look, I've done all I can do at this school. And I'm not mad at him. I'm not saying anybody should be mad at him. But I am saying this idea that, he's hitting the portal. We made a horrible mistake. We shouldn't have ever let him go. I mean, I promise you, when this is all said and done, the running backs room will be fine.
Okay, I like to hear that, Mike. DeWitt Razorback says at the time of writing this, KJ still has not entered the portal. You are correct. He has still not entered the portal as of the time of reading this question. With each passing day, are you getting more confident that he may not be leaving? Have you heard any rumors from insiders?
Well, what we now know, and it just happened a few minutes ago, is that Boise State's quarterback has committed.
Yes.
Okay, so are there any circumstances under which he would come here and KJ would say, I'm staying?
That would be a very
full quarterback room. If I'm that kid, I'm going to be told directly by Arkansas's coaches, our quarterback's not coming back.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm not committing.
Well, a guy like him, who you've seen the stats, true dual threat quarterback, can't talk today. You've got to get him in that room and say something that's going to, I like that.
And if you can't even tell him, if your quarterback from last year, who's been your starter for 3 seasons, if you can't tell him that he's leaving, why would he come here? So I just have to assume KJ, for whatever he's doing, he's gone based on that. Now, here's what I would say about this. And every once in a while, I try to take an objective tone when I'm doing this show for the most part. But every once in a while, I put some little personal things in here. And this is what I'm going to say, because I've watched video of this guy. And what did I say to all of you when I watched it?
Yeah, I know what you said. You went, this is Matt Jones. I love it.
A 6'6" quarterback whose legs move as fast as somebody that's 6 foot tall, but he's taking much longer strides. And so he's gobbling up yards. He doesn't look like he's running that fast, but he's gobbling up yards, and little bitty guys are chasing him, going dee 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 dee, and he's going.
He's just like
derp, derp, derp. I mean, it was fun watching Matt do that. It's going to be fun watching this guy do that. Now, Matt, here's what people would say about him. Well, he's not that much of. Oh, he was a much better passer than people ever wanted to admit. He was. He was effective. Go back and look at any of those overtime games that he won, 7 overtime. He did a lot of that with his arm. He could throw when he wanted to. This kid can throw. We've looked at a bunch of his video. We saw him throwing one pick in particular where he just stared the guy down and threw right into a package,
linebacker,
and it was a pick. So that's why his touchdown interception ratio is 11-7. It's not good. But guess who's going to be coaching him?
Bobby Petrino.
He makes quarterbacks better. So I'm thinking that he has enough sense to know, wow, if I can have this guy as my coach, I will get better. Maybe I got a shot at playing at the next level if I come in and do what he tells me to do. I just think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different thing. Maybe it's not going to be Matt Jones, but I like to tell myself it is because I don't like storylines to be boring.
Well, our Evan here in the office, he tweeted at you. He says, to Mike Irwin's point about Matt Jones, I think this guy's like a Lamar Jackson-esque, quarterback. I mean, he's like literally that good.
Well, that's because Evan didn't see Matt Jones.
That's true.
And Matt Jones, I would say Lamar Jackson was a Matt Jones-esque quarterback because Matt Jones was first, and Matt Jones was taller and had longer legs and had a better stride.
I love that. I love that. You said he came first, so we're going to call Lamar Jackson a Matt Jones-esque quarterback. I love that. We'll see. I mean, but to go back to the question, we both heard that he's gone. I mean, I haven't heard anyone say he's not gone. You know what I mean?
I mean, you have to be goofy to, really? You're going to sit here and let them bring in a guy like this and go, I think I'll stay.
Nah, I can't see him doing that. I can't see him doing that, especially.
I shouldn't say goofy, but because he might have his own reasons, but that just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And I don't think this guy is going to sit behind KJ Jefferson.
Again, he would not have taken the scholarship offer if they couldn't tell him, yes, we're losing our starting quarterback.
Yeah,
and the job is wide open.
And you have an opportunity to get that job, whereas if KJ comes back, you have to say, well, you're going to have to sit behind KJ.
Yeah, you're going to have to beat him out.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy to me. Hot Dogger says, there have been a few athletes like Nick Smith and Rocket Sanders that went out of state to pursue rehab for their injuries. Are there not qualified orthopedic therapists on campus to handle sports injuries? If not, then why?
Yeah, they got a lot of good people like that around here because, a lot of them work with athletes at the U of A. But if you have a specific problem, we've discussed this, a orthopedist here might recommend somebody in Houston, might recommend somebody in LA. I personally think what happened in those two cases was it was probably agent-based. I know in Nick Smith Jr.'s case his agent was in LA.
It was in LA,
and he wants to be there to supervise what's going on there. So that could be some of it. But some of it, as always, this is not New York, it's not LA, and you wouldn't have as many of these people. And the top guy in the field might be in Omaha, and the guy might be in Miami. And you might have a local orthopedist tell that athlete, this is a specific problem. You need to go see this guy in Omaha, or you need to go over to this guy in New Jersey. So
absolutely.
I think that's what happens.
Yeah,
it's not that we don't have good people here, but sometimes they recommend that you go somewhere else.
Exactly, and sometimes they understand, here's my opinion on this, but there's a specialist over here that's even better. My dad talks about that all the time with his athletes, where they have great orthopedic surgeons there and things like that, but they always go, well, there's a specialist here that might just do it a little bit better, right? Or treats athletes specifically for this, whereas I treat everybody. So That's a great question, though, Hot Dogger. Peacock says, seems like week 2 of football season, we were told that the new naming rights to Razorback Stadium were about to be released. Has it been pulled or just buried because of a horrible season?
Well, it was never pulled because they didn't do it to begin with. I'm told that Hunter Yurachek will probably start exploring this more starting next year. The current name of Reynolds Razorback Stadium and the deal they got when they gave however much money they gave, and I can't remember now how much it was. The project was $100 million or something like that, $110 million. I don't know how much the Don W. Reynolds Foundation gave for that, but I guess the deal was to run from 1999 or 2000 when it finished through 2020 through June of 2024. So the deal doesn't run out until the last day of June of next year. And once that happens, they theoretically could rename it at any point. I don't know that they'll move that fast. I would just guess, this is a guess because I'm not in Hunter Yurachek's office hiding behind a desk and listening to all of his phone calls, but I'm guessing that it's going to be a little bit hard to find somebody like that right now until the program gets back in better shape. Because I just can't see somebody going, yeah, we'll give you $50, $75 million. I know you just won 4 games last year, but that doesn't matter to us. Now, maybe you could find somebody like that, maybe, but I don't know. The real question to me is, what would they spend this money on? If they get money for the renaming of the stadium, are they going to? Is there anything that says they have to spend it on the stadium? Could they just spend it for other things? Because I think that's a possibility. I'm trying to look at what's wrong with the stadium itself. And to me, the glaring thing is cosmetic. It's the west side, which looks awful. And I've always believed they should do something about that, and I don't think that's an expensive fix. The steel work is already there. You just come up, brick it up to a certain level, and then use that, whatever that stucco material is that they have around the rest of it. And I don't think that's horribly expensive. I don't think we're talking about $50 million for that. So I think they could do that. My guess is if you go into that north end zone facility and all of the levels that they've got and people that are in there, there's a reason why they're willing to go in there and be in the end zone, and even if they go outside, look into the sun, which is not fun. It's because inside that blows away everything else that's there. I'm just telling you, if you've never been in there, it's unbelievable.
Like the touchdown club area?
Yeah, and they've got 4 or 5 levels of that stuff, different clubs.
Yeah.
And so if I had money, that's where I'd be.
Every time, right?
Because you can go outside and watch for a while, and then you can come inside, and they got all kinds of TVs, and they got good food, and everybody's visiting and having a good time, and in bad weather, you don't have to freeze to death or roast in September. So that is the best area. So maybe what they will do is the original skyboxes on the west side were constructed in 85 is when they did that.
Oh, wow.
When they double-decked and added that stuff, something like that.
Okay.
So that's a lot older than the skyboxes on the west side and the club area they've got up there. So I'm going to say maybe they would go into those skyboxes and not just upgrade the skyboxes themselves, but maybe create areas behind that where they could all intermingle, because fans don't sometimes just want to go in their own little area and hide. You got other buddies, you know, and you go out and their wife talks to this lady and you like this guy over there. So they might be able to do something behind those skyboxes and enclose them more and create more of an effect like what you've got on the north side.
Yeah, I think those are great options to do. But you want them to use that money for those upgrades. Because I guess the person that comes in could say, I'll rename the stadium, but I want some of the money to go to NIL.
They might specify that.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever's renaming it might say, yeah, we'll give you the money. We're not giving you the money to fix up the basketball arena. Go get another name for that.
Exactly. Cowhog32 wants to know, what is up with the Hoop Hogs this year? Great wins over Purdue and Duke, but when we play outside of Bud Walton Arena, we lay eggs. I keep hearing the excuses that there are new players adjusting to each other, blah, 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 blah. What's the real reason we're struggling?
Several things are going on there. Whether you want to hear it or not, it is adjusting.
Yeah.
And some people have made the point, well, Porter Mosier brought in almost an entirely new team, and they're not struggling. He doesn't run the same system as Musselman. We've seen Muss's system, especially defensively, takes a while for these guys to get it, for him to identify who's the best players. This process this is not our first rodeo with him. It's been going on for 5 years before this. So we're seeing the same thing that we usually see. His teams tend to struggle somewhat in this time of the season, sometimes even on into SEC play. I think some of it also is this is the toughest schedule I've seen early. They've played some really good teams.
Yeah.
And so it's
not even like you take away the Dukes, you take away the Oklahomas, it's
like
Furman,
overall.
UNCG. I mean, all of those guys are still tough teams.
Tougher overall. Now let's throw in the fact. Let's address this Oklahoma game specifically. Who are two of your best players? Trevin Brazil.
Trevin Brazil, yeah.
Who's another one?
Tremont Mark.
Okay. What is up with those two guys? They've both been hurt. Now they were playing. They both played. One played a lot more than the other. I think Brazil played 15 minutes of the game and Mark 33. So they're playing. They entered that game with a combined scoring average of 33 points a game, the two of them. What did they score in this game?
Oh, nothing.
8.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that doesn't hurt you when that happens? They're not themselves right now. They will be in 2 or 3 weeks, give them more time to recover. So that was a big part of what was going on in that game. Now you're going to get into, we did this yesterday.
We did.
Because your dad's a basketball coach, and so I won't do what we did.
But you would have acted out?
Yeah, we were acting it out. But here's the deal. If you're playing defense, hand checking, a little body bumping, it's okay. But if I'm a referee, this is how I do this. I will allow hand checking. I will allow some body pressure as long as you're not gaining an advantage through it. You accidentally bump a guy, it doesn't do anything. But when I'm guarding you and you're trying to look for a place to probe inside and I'm doing this and pushing you back, you're gaining an advantage through fouls. And they were doing that the whole game.
And you say pushing back like this, but they were kind of smothering them. I mean, it was a little, my dad even said, refs are a little, they're ignoring some things
I saw
here.
at least 3 times where an Arkansas ball, the guy dribbling is going to go around, because most players, if you're dribbling with your right hand, they're going to go to that side. They don't generally go this way because you're kind of exposed more to the defense. So you're going around this side because your ball,
and
your hand is away from them. So you're going around there, but what you're looking for is a pivot point in which you can then turn and go straight to the basket. I saw 3 or 4 times where they turned and did that, and they were bumped out and away from the basket. Yeah. That's gaining an advantage through physical contact, and a foul wasn't called. Now, I'm just telling you, in Big 12 play, watch it. Watch OU and see if they get away with that in Big 12 play. They're not. They might get away with it at their place. They're not going to on the road, I promise you, because the other coach is going to be going bonkers like Muss was.
Yeah. So
there were a lot of reasons that happened, and I'm not making excuses. This team has some issues. They don't play defense very well. To me, they're a bunch of guys so far that if you put them in their own arena and it's full, and that's a key, it has to be full, they draw off the energy and everybody's playing out the wazoo. But what these guys have to do is learn to play on the road when they're away from home, or if the crowd's not quite what it was for the Purdue game, Let's do that, the Duke game.
Yeah, you have to learn how to play in different atmospheres. And not only that, Musselman made a good point in his press conference. I do have to say this, because he sat up there and he said, we've had the same defensive concepts for 9 years, 10 years, right? This group just doesn't get them, so we have to go back to the drawing board. And that's changing things. That's changing what you have to do as a coaching staff to get these guys to understand. Other groups understood them a little better, and that's why you saw them learn it faster. This group, he straight up says, they don't get it like other teams.
And there's one more thing. The guards as a whole are not as tall as they've been.
Okay.
And that's a little bit of a disadvantage, too. But I think this is a different team when Brazil, in particular, is not effective.
Absolutely.
It becomes a totally different team.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think he ended up with any points in the game.
No, 0 points.
0 points.
Mark had 8. He had 0.
Yeah.
He had 1 rebound.
Yeah, exactly. He did nothing. But also, and I totally understand, I'm not blaming Trevin for this, Musselman said in the postgame, he sacrificed Stephen play in this one, right? He said, I'm going to try, I'm going to do it, I'm going to try and be that presence that you need.
If you ever had that kind of ankle injury, you know what the deal. Basketball is where you got to cut all the time.
Oh my gosh, I can't even
believe. You're on a hard floor.
When Musselman was like, it swelled up right after he came off the court, I went, oh, that's not good basketball.
So all of those are reasons why I'm not too concerned my own self.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're not too concerned. I think a lot of us are concerned going into SEC play, but hey, I think we just all need to take a chill pill, see what happens.
I've been through a football season that was as bad as anything I've seen except for dopey Chad Morris. That was worse, but this was a good second. And having gone through that, nothing this basketball team is going to do is going to concern me too much, because I'm sitting there watching a team just die against an Auburn team that wasn't that good.
Well, mic drop there for you, Mike. The next question is not going to be much better. We're going to still talk about basketball, but we're going to switch over to the women now. Mousetown asks, what's the fallout going to be with the women losing to Arkansas Pine Bluff in basketball, Mike?
Okay, there's not going to be fallout for losing that. There might be for a day or two. Look, Hunter Yurachek made this decision. Frank never wanted to do it and didn't do it. Yurachek said there's no reason not to, because what he said is, okay, so we lose every once in a while. So he can't very well just get all bent out of shape, because the Arkansas women have a good record in these type games. This is the first one they've lost. I remember the men losing a baseball game early on in this process, and I think they went to the College World Series later on that year.
Yeah, did they lose to UAPB, or was it?
I think it was
UAPB. Yeah. I want to say.
So, and I think it was a pretty bad loss.
Yeah.
Like 11-3 or something crazy. So here's the deal. You could beat a team like that 15 times in a row, and the one time you lose to it, they're awesome, they're great, they've done everything, they're the best team in the state, they're the best women's basketball team in the state, and you're dog meat. That's the process that Frank hated. But if you have the right attitude, which I think Yurachek does, and Arkansas fans should, some of them, you just go, okay, who cares? We'll beat them 10 more times in a row before they win another one like that.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem with this team is coming. It's what do you do in SEC play? This team actually has shown some differences in 2 or 3 of them before him. I mean, they've had some big wins.
Yeah.
They've looked really good at times.
Yeah.
They put it together at times, but it's not consistent. And when they don't play well, like in this one, what causes it? They get intimidated, out-physicaled, out-hustled. They get lazy and go, oh, gee, if I dribble in there, I might get the shot blocked or get the ball taken away from me, and I'm not getting good ball movement away from the ball, and so I might not have a good assist person in there, so I'll just jack up a three. You know?
When we're not good three-point shooters, we'll just
Keep in mind that at
threes.
one point they had a pretty comfortable lead in that game.
Yeah.
They just opened the door for this team, and once they got into a position, it was like you got an alligator that's about to chew your leg up now, and it's going to be harder to get your leg out of his mouth. And that's basically what happened. Again, they've just got to become more consistent. The biggest problem I see right now is they've got to make Miriam Dowda the player that she is. I'm telling you, she's better than what you're seeing. We've seen moments when she looks good. She is very, very talented. There's something about her. I think she doesn't have enough confidence in herself. It's up to them to get her confidence, because she is a real key. If she were playing well in that game, that wouldn't have happened.
No.
They got out-jumped. They got out-rebounded, out-physical. She can be physical. She can out-jump. She's big, or tall anyway.
Yeah.
So they got to get her going. And I think Poffenbarger needs to understand, I'm a rebounder. I'm not necessarily a three-point shooter. You know, some of those type things.
Yeah, a little bit of that. And Talia Scott can't be the only one producing offensively.
Well,
you know,
the rumor is there's some friction on that team between her and somebody else. They better solve that problem, because that is an issue. You can't have 2 good players kind of jealous of each other, if that's what it is. I don't know whether that's what it is. But there are some issues there that Mike Neighbors has to solve, but he can solve them before SEC play starts. And play well in the SEC, and no one will care about this game.
Yeah, and to UAPB's credit, they have played other Power 5 schools on this season. Now, they lost to them, but they played them. They were competitive in those games, and they also have transfers. I think Coach was saying they have 2 SEC transfers on their team. Like, they've built themselves up to play these games and be competitive in them. They wanted a tough schedule starting off the bat so that they could say, look, we're gonna play tough competition, and Arkansas was included in that. So
Sure.
You know, they won the game, but it happens. T.L. Slayton says, and I love that we have a volleyball question, so thank you, T.L. Slayton. I was never a volleyball fan, but this year those girls got me hooked. They busted their butts. Sam Pittman needed to take his guys to watch. They could learn something about school pride.
And you made a good point with me earlier, is that these girls, they were here the whole time. And they were
were some here
losing.
5 years.
And they were losing. And they listened to their coach. They didn't give up. They kept working. And this is what happens when you have school loyalty, school pride. You don't take off for the transfer portal the first time there are issues. You just stay to get better. And if it can happen in that sport, it can happen in football too. And that's what this football team absolutely needs, more of that kind of stuff. Because when you watch them play, and I watched them play a lot, there were so many times when they looked beat in certain games and they just gutted it out and came back and they almost pulled off against the number one. And I mean, yeah, they made a contest out of that. Probably my best memory of this season is when they had Kentucky's coach knew, it was that moment when she knew they were fixing to beat her team and they were going to be upset. And she looked like she looked like she had just looked up and saw a train about to run over her.
What is happening?
What is happening? And you love that when players can do that, when they can have that kind of effect on other coaches. It was just a fun season. And I hope they can use this to recruit and keep that going, because that was fun. I went to some of those, especially the NCAA playoff games, where the atmosphere in Old Barnhill was great.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people I saw in there that were football fans and basketball fans that came in there because they liked watching that. And I think it wasn't just that it was volleyball and it's something new. I think there was something about those girls that people had watched on television and went, man, I like that intensity.
Yeah.
I like it.
There were people talking with me that are football fans that were going, Jill Gillen, man, I love watching that girl play. And then you think about her story, right, where nobody thought she could do what she did. She was told by many schools she would never have the career that she did. And look, she has proven a lot. She proved a lot of people wrong this season. And that was amazing to watch the team, how excited they got after wins, after even point celebrations. You just saw the camaraderie, the excitement. And it was awesome to see the fans all there this year. I mean, you talk about those NCAA tournament games. I mean, I think I was there for a game earlier in the season, an SEC game, where it was packed out. And I was like, this is amazing that people are here supporting this volleyball team, because they feed off of that too. They fed off of it. They love the crowd energy.
It was great.
It was awesome. I love that we got a volleyball question. Those girls absolutely deserve some love. I mean, first Elite Eight in program history. Man, whoo. Gotta love that. That was awesome. MB Hogg says, and I like this question as well, because we were just talking about how awesome the fans are here supporting volleyball. I've read on the internet that Razorbacks are known to have one of the top 5 worst fan bases in the country. Is there any truth to this?
Well, I don't know whether there was a poll that he looked at on the internet.
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
Look, here's the thing. I'm sure there are probably people on the internet. There's a guy that claimed he did a survey. He's a Razorback fan. He claimed he did a survey, ran a poll.
Oh, yeah, I saw
And he said that it was running bad for Musselman, and you got to get rid of him. And you just want to die laughing. I told people that's one of the reasons I read X.
Yeah.
Is because there's crazy people on there that are so crazy it's funny. So maybe there's some group out there that says, oh, yeah, we're going to have a poll on bad fan bases.
Well, Barstool did bring up on one of their podcasts, and I don't know if it was part of my take or another one, where they were talking about Arkansas fans being the craziest fan base in all of college sports.
I'm just telling you, I read all of them.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I go and I read a lot of that stuff. Arkansas is not even close to the craziest. Tennessee fans? Are you kidding me?
Tennessee fans are wild, Mike. Wild.
LSU fans?
Yeah.
Missouri fans? I mean, Arkansas, the state's not full of choir boys or anything. And look, again, if you're judging a fan base by people on the internet, I'll point out what I've pointed out many times before. Most people are not on there. You may think they're all there, but they're not. So most of your fans are never on there. Here's the thing, and I've told this story before. I was kind of moving around in my job early in my career looking for something that would be interesting. And when I got here, I said, this is it.
Yeah.
And it was because of the fans. Frank had a lot to do with it, but it was also the fans. The fans were just the best. And I had a guy tell me that. His grandfather was from Ashdown. Even though he grew up in Texas, he would come in the summer and spend summers with his grandfather. And he told me, he said, they have the best fans in America. And so I came up here, and I've been up here about 6 months. I called him up on the phone and said, man, you were right. So, no, Arkansas has the best fans overall. Now, I don't know about internet.
I would say would you agree with Arkansas has some of the most passionate fans?
Yes.
Because I think that's true because
it's the family thing I talked about earlier, where my grandfather went to Arkansas, I went to Arkansas, my son is going to Arkansas, and his son is going to go to Arkansas. None of us played. We just went to games while we were students there, but we're Razorback fans. What about our weather guy?
Yeah.
He's like cuckoo.
Yeah, he's
cuckoo Razorback fan.
You mean Josh Rugger?
Yes, he's
cuckoo.
Great.
He's great.
It's awesome. And that's what I'm telling you. That's what you have here. And you've got a lot of that everywhere, but it's more here. I'm just telling you, it's more.
No, you're
You're from out of
I'm from out of state.
I'm from out of state. I'm just telling you, so many people come in here from the outside. The best example is Frank Broyles. People act like Frank grew up here. Frank grew up in Georgia. You know, he played there. And then he went to Baylor for a brief time as an assistant coach. But he came up here during a Baylor-Arkansas game as an assistant coach and walked around town on the Friday before the Saturday game and went, whoa, I like this. Yeah. Then he goes up to Missouri for 1 year and comes back here and never leaves.
Yeah.
Rest of his life.
I mean, there's something about Arkansas in general that once you step in the state and you just feel the vibe, you just get here and you're like, wow, this is a great place, and you would never know. And the fan base is so passionate. I have a friend in New York that follows me on social media, and she goes, Courtney, the fans of Arkansas? And I go, yeah. She goes, you tweet anything Arkansas, and it gets like 7,000 likes. She goes, I don't think there's anything that we could tweet. They're New York Yankees fans and things like that. She's like, I know the fan bases in New York are wild, but she goes, I don't think we could just tweet a random thing and get 7,000 likes on it. But that's Arkansas for you. That's the fan base. Yeah. They're so passionate.
So for every whack-a-mole out there that says that Musselman, there's a poll that he's done in Musselman that doesn't do well in the poll, so he must be fired, there's probably a whole bunch of people that are normal fans that understand what's going on and they like it, and they're not going to sit here and just rubber stamp a bad football season, or even a questionable start to a basketball season. But that doesn't make them bad fans. So I don't know where they're coming, what he looked at, or anything.
I don't think top 5 worst fan bases in the country is reasonable. I think whoever put that out there, I'd like to know what MB Hogg was reading or what outlet it was.
Barstool Whack-A-Mole.
No, but Barstool said they were the craziest. They weren't saying it like I think they were just like, they're crazy. Have you seen them on social media? They're wild.
Yeah, I could see that.
They weren't being highly, highly negative, I don't feel like. And again, I only listened to a small portion of the clip, so maybe they went a little crazy on Arkansas fans, but I feel like they're correct in that Arkansas fans are very passionate, and that's the allure of the Razorbacks in coming here, right?
Oh, good.
Oh, there you go. That's it. That's going to do it for this week. We'll see you next Monday to answer more of your questions.